I believe if we want to succeed in this changing environment, we have to not have hubris. We can't have ego. And we learn more with our 2 ears. And we have to integrate with the best first-class partners that we can.
All right, we're here with another episode of Forging the Future, and our guests today are Mark Valdez and Alejandro Mendez, co-founders of Royal Eagle Capital. Thanks for being on the show, gentlemen.
Thank you for having us.
You're welcome. So I wanted to talk a little bit about who you are, right? So maybe introduce yourselves, talk about Royal Eagle, how you two met.
Mark Valdez, born and raised Houstonian. God bless Texas. God bless Houston. Used to work at Morgan Stanley as an alternative investment director and a couple other things I did over there. Had the privilege to meet my current business partner, Alejandro Mendez. Privilege is loosely used, but it's okay. And, Alejandro and I co-founded Royal Eagle Capital Partners a few years ago. And I'll let Alejandro introduce himself.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Chris, for having us. My name is Alejandro Mendez. I was born in Mexico, moved to Houston in 2005. And I worked for a couple of big banks in the past. And I left the industry in 2012. And I started a private equity firm. And in 2018, we decided to partner, me and Mark, started talking about creating our own solution, Royal Eagle. And from there, we are here.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, one theme we have is really humble beginnings, right? So I started Softeq out of my home. Was really, one of the first entrepreneurs in my own family. I know, Mark, you grew up in Houston. I think you joked before about being on the wrong side of the tracks, and I think it's just very interesting for a little bit of that story of how you started from there, and then became an investment banker in Morgan Stanley, right?
I understand. We don't have enough tequila or Zacapa for that sad story, so I'm going to spare you too many details.
It's a happy story.
I won't be overly existential about it. Long story short, Chris, I grew up relatively humble. My parents were they were very hard workers and were able to help me get into Cy-Fair for schooling, and I think that was pivotal. Mm-hmm. I think education is key for anybody's success. So I would say, it's a little bit of luck, a lot of blessings, backed by a lot of education. And motivation and hard work is something that just has to be intrinsic in an individual. It's hard to teach that to somebody. They either have it or don't, and they have to have a desire. So with that said, I was lucky to have that. We started working since, at a very young age. And we used to, always joke, and I think it's still the joke for Alejandro and myself. We own a Fortune 100 company. It's 100% of our fortune. So with that said, you have to give it your blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you, Alejandro?
Well,
I'm sure you weren't born an investment banker. Right?
No, I was middle class in Mexico. As Mark, my parents' privileged education. I started working with my father at a young age as well. I think.
What did your father do?
Well, my father used to work for a bank, and then he left the industry as well and started his own business. And he was kind of contract supplier for government for the health system in Mexico. So he grew a decent shop, supplying.
Was that an inspiration for you on your own entrepreneurial journey to see your dad do that and be successful at it?
Yeah, obviously. And in my mom's side, I also have my grandfather started, several businesses, and he only had the chance to get to elementary school because he was the oldest brother of five sisters. So so he needs to start really early to start making money. And I have both sides, inspiration and examples. Yeah, as well.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Now, both of you left pretty large corporations and a successful career, right? I mean, was that something you were concerned about, you were scared about? How did you take that first plunge? I mean, did people think you were crazy? You know, why would you leave Morgan Stanley? I mean, how did your family support that?
Yeah, Chris, I think people have thought I was crazy since I was a kid. So I've been relatively indifferent or apathetic to that. At the end of the day, I know sometimes I can be hyperbolic or a little dramatic, but we're given one life, one opportunity. And whether you're religious or not, or what you believe in, I believe it would be a mitigation of whatever you believe in if you don't go for it. Okay. And so with that said, I think, and again, everything has to be built from somewhere inside. So, for me, it's spiritual, and it's a desire to go for it as far as I can. I'm short and chubby. I'm already 40 something years old. I might only have 5 or 10 more years now. So
Max,
exactly. So with that said, Chris, I've changed careers a couple times in my life. I have a graduate degree in social work. I've been a social worker before. That has its own unique situations. I've worked in real estate. I worked as a financial advisor. And I worked at Wachovia Security, Wells Fargo Advisors, and then Morgan Stanley. So, I mean, it's not that you're perpetually looking for something that's better. You're looking for something that's more meaningful and something that allows you to, in a vocation and an occupation, to be able to serve, your family, what you believe in, and people around you in your community even better. And I think that's kind of the catalyst of why I move when I move.
And do you think you have the opportunity now to do that with your Royal Eagle firm?
Unequivocally, having the privilege of having our own firm allows us to be agnostic, allows us to be independent, and make our own decisions every day we wake up. And you can't get better than that.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a thesis for your firm, Alejandro? What do you invest in, or what are you trying to do with Royal Eagle?
I think we have been evolving as well, because coming from the financial industry, obviously the first decision was to open a financial firm. So we start discover some opportunities. When I left the industry, also I had the opportunity to buy an electricity company here in Texas. So being in Houston, coming from the financial industry, it was very natural for us to explore energy, oil and gas at that point, and finance. So we are adding a third kind of a strategy that is linked to technology, right? Because everything has to be, even the traditional industries that we can see.
Right. Digital transformation.
Is a digital transformation everywhere. So we're exploring, and through partnerships with with Softeq, we have we are trying to understand what is the Royal Eagle position doing traditional industries like finance, energy, and others, but adding the technology piece. So like I say, I think we are evolving as a company every day. And adding to what Mark is saying, being us the main partners, the decision making is really dynamic. Not the same as the corporate world that we came from.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a big difference. Obviously, you have the support when you're working with the big companies. You have all the support,
right?
But at the same time, you have the flexibility to make changes.
Yeah,
easy.
Well, it's all on you, right?
Exactly.
Well, you decided to make a large investment in the Softeq Venture Fund. I think you're our second largest LP, and thank you for that. Why did you decide to make that investment?
I think the decision was really easy. We really liked the team, first of all. You guys have the background and the name. I really like the strategy, how also you guys can make decisions fast because you're very linear as well. And for us to get in technology, we needed the kind of the due diligence support that we are getting from Softeq. And in order to us to research or evaluate any company we can invest, it will take a lot of time and effort and money.
Right.
So I think our best decision was going through the fund and get access to 100 and something companies eventually that Softeq is going to support.
Sure.
At the same time, we're finding some opportunities, boutique companies that make sense for us in our verticals, and maybe making direct investments on them. But I think Softeq brings us the opportunity to have a good name, validate the technology, also validate the valuation of those companies.
Right.
Right.
Get under the hood.
Yeah.
Understand not just the founding team, but the technology that they're trying to build, and is it real?
Yes,
right?
exactly. And you know what, Chris? I think one of the most important things is that the pre-seed from the financial stack, the pre-seed stage to go to market to revenue is very important. So I think Softeq can bring us that opportunity to accelerate, go to market, and invest in improved revenue, but then get to the revenue stage.
Right.
So that's we are really financial, right? We are not technology, but with this partnership with you guys, I think we can solve kind of a bottleneck that we have.
Right. That's great.
I thought it was the dartboard. It wasn't tequila and the dartboard.
Well, we say yes, no. You could say yes.
Your answer is so much more elegant. We had a couple options, and it
just put a few logos on the board and just threw a dart, and we were lucky enough to get tagged.
Chris, I would like to add to that because we really do appreciate the relationship, and respectfully, I believe if we want to succeed in this changing environment, we have to not have hubris. We can't have ego. And we learn more with our 2 ears. And we have to integrate with the best first-class partners that we can. And in all sincerity, that is Softeq. Oh. And we appreciate you having us also. We really do believe you will disrupt the market. Your venture studios is extremely sophisticated. And you have the pipeline and process to be able to take a great idea and make it where it actually from theory to application. And that's so important because what we really appreciated is a lot of your founders, they're professionals that have worked, a couple decades. So they have a lot of intellectual capital underneath their belt.
Right.
And to be able to source that and to be able to create technology and a company around that's viable for them, their families, and all the people that are going to use those technology services. I think that is something very special to be part of.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. We have been skewing to older founders, and a lot of people have the thought that startups are founded by 19-year-old Mark Zuckerbergs and Larry Pages and Sergey Brins of the world, but the average age of a successful founder is actually 45. And we're seeing that actually be true in our own cohorts and startup founders that have either had long careers in an industry that they built a lot of experience in and then want to launch their own venture, or they've already had a startup and made all the mistakes and learned from them, maybe exited already, and now they're doing their second startup. And that's really, really helpful when you to have that background. And if you don't, then, leveraging the experience that Softeq has and our entrepreneurs that have also built businesses and exited and scaled companies for some of the biggest names in the world. But being able to share our own mistakes so other people don't just make the same and can help them succeed.
Yeah, but that's how we become stronger. I mean, we have to share what we did wrong, so others can learn from that.
Yeah,
I'm glad that you said 45. That means I still have a couple of years. So there's still hope for me.
There's still a chance.
I will tell you from experience managing money, a lot of our clients are business owners, and it's funny because you learn more from them than you can teach them. All I can humbly do is talk about asset management and investments and what we do, but they have a lot of life experience. And one of the motifs that we found is that a lot of the business owners we work with, they seem to say that they've had to make mistakes or lose a lot of money 3 or 4 times. It's usually 3 times, and then around that 4th time, they everything clicks. And so I mean, we've worked with companies, and these people, they're in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and you look at them and you're like, how are you so successful? But when you actually sit down and talk to them, and break some bread, we all have to go through those hurdles.
Yeah.
And I think Softeq is helping minimize some of those hurdles for the founders that you work with.
Right. Hopefully.
Hopefully, in respect to the LP and the investment. Hopefully, yes. I say yes.
Well, I mean, I did want to talk a little bit about Latin America, right? So we just opened an office in Monterey. We have, I think, somewhere around 50 people down there now out of the 500 people at Softeq. And made a couple trips down there. You've been down there with us on occasion, made some introductions, and the market there for startups and the opportunity for Latin American startups and startups in Mexico really seems to be at a tipping point. Would you agree to that?
Yeah, of course. I just came back from Mexico last week, and I received some feedback from our meetings there. So, and people really appreciate how dynamic Softeq is in their process. Not only to accept companies in the cohort, but the follow-up. That's kind of unique solution in Mexico. There's some venture capitals really good, and there's some initiatives that banks are starting to finance startups.
But not very much, right? I mean, I think that's part of the issue.
Yeah, it's kind of still a boutique. And there is a lot of companies in fintech, and I think with Softeq we have seen, multiple diverse companies, health, logistics,
right, medtech,
retail. So that's huge. That's very, very, very important. And I think you guys going to Mexico is a right decision because it's a very interesting market. I think it's the second largest besides Brazil. Brazil has his own dynamic.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Let's put it politely.
They have their own parties and their own Copacabana and that kind of stuff.
I think Chris got excited. He made it open an office in Brazil now.
But
it was Independence Day yesterday.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
But I think if Softeq is successful, and I do not have any doubts it will be a good market test to go to Colombia or Brazil or Chile or Ecuador. So I think it's a fantastic that you guys decide to go to Mexico.
Well, we've been impressed with the level of both engineers and the startups and founders there, and we brought a number of them through the studio already. We have several of them again in this last batch of 20, and like you said, anywhere from med tech and hardware, doing some innovative hardware for testing blood glucose with light, or fintech, a lot of fintech down there. They're trying to solve some real problems with how money works, in between the regions, and we're really pretty excited to be starting that.
Yeah, and I think Softeq being there, creating jobs, is a direct investment, believe it or not.
Right.
And the opportunity for these companies to come also and explore U.S. market, because some of them can be in both sides of the border, obviously, because of the solution. I think, Chris, this is fantastic from a Mexican point of view.
Well, we're happy to do it. I wanted to talk a little bit about kind of the unusual ways connections are made and when collisions happen, right? So our path to knowing you, I think, is an interesting...
It usually involves a bar.
Yeah, right.
Lots of collisions at bars.
Yeah.
How did we... Oh, that's right. You're right.
I mean, it's... So for example, we've actually had several connections between startups and founders and LPs because of, people having kids on the same soccer team or people being soccer coaches. So talk a little bit about how you met our head of studio Billy, I believe, is how it originally came through. And what was happening there?
Do you want the? What is this rated? Is this rated G? Okay.
G mostly.
Okay. We'll give you the. So what people don't realize is Senor Mendez here is Coach Mendez. Okay.
Oh, that's right. It was.
And this young man to the left of me is extremely calm, graceful, quiet spoken. You put him on a soccer field. Okay. He will burn your virgin ears. Okay.
That's when he comes alive.
And he'll do it in a language you don't even understand. Sometimes it's Spanish, sometimes it's just grunts.
Yeah.
So he had a great soccer season, and I don't want to take away from him talking from that. He should. But the way we met Billy was Alejandro invited my family to the end of the year party.
For the soccer party?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he just came up to me, and he's like, hey, this guy's named Billy, he does technology. I happen to be sitting next to him. And, we were watching Clifford on a Sunday or something, like at 11 a.m. And I was like, I don't want to talk to anybody, So after ordering my first vodka soda at a kid's party, Billy looked over at me and he goes, I like that. He goes, you have to really know who you are to order a vodka soda early in the morning at a kid's birthday party or a soccer party.
Yeah.
And so, I think Billy and I have decided that we're each other's spirit animals. We see eye to eye on a lot of things. Unfortunately, I've stolen a lot of his expressions. He has a couple rules, for how to engage in communication. And I love how he says, the first rule is, don't be, put in the word that you want to think. And rule number 2,
don't be a jerk. Don't be a jerk.
That's a great way to say it.
He says it a little differently.
Yeah. And then rule number 2 is look at rule number 1. And then you win happy, I win happy, happy, happy. So that's Billy 2022. That's the quote of the year. Happy, happy.
Happy, happy.
But I'd love for Alejandro to talk about, the collision, and him, his work in soccer, interest in soccer and being a soccer coach.
Yeah.
Well, it's I don't know. It's part of the conversation, but I will try.
No, what it is, because it also ties into the fintech that we're doing.
Yeah, I think what is interesting about not discounting anybody, any opportunities. If you listen, if you're attentive and you're open to receive ideas, you never know where the opportunity will come, right? And then I think it was just because soccer, and I was the coach of Billy's daughter, and we went to the movies because I have a specific way to motivate my team. If we win 3 games in a row, because I don't like to lose, by the way. I think nobody like to lose, but I hate to lose. But if we win 3 games in a row, it's an ice cream. If we win 5 games in a row, it was movies. So the girls really, really fight for that movie, afternoon. And obviously, I invite the parents, and it happened to be that Mark and Billy clicked. And then one day he said, "Hey, we're going to invest in Softeq. You have to say yes."
Chris, talking about collisions, and you're right. I think that's part of being an entrepreneur is you have to always be open to the possibility. We're an asset management company that owns portfolio companies. One of them is set to go public late this year, early next year, on the Euronext. And it's amazing because the board members are people that we just randomly met that are extremely professional. But I'll tell you, I met a gentleman who used to be part of the world's largest EPC company. And I met him at a car wash, and I just happened to be talking about estate.
Was he doing your tires? Or
yeah, pretty much, exactly. I gave him a big tip. That's why he was excited, And he was just glad that he was hearing me talk to somebody else about estate planning. And it was just random, casual Sunday conversation. I actually met Alejandro through another friend, but I only had that opportunity because I was in a situation where somebody randomly met somebody else randomly at an elevator. They needed some assistance on some information, and they thought I was smart enough to give it to them. Little did they know I was not. So I dragged in somebody else And then he dragged in Alejandro. And then that's how I met Alejandro.
Wow.
I was the smarter.
He was.
I was the only one.
And
that
you see
did.
how smart he is. So you can only imagine how not smart we are. Okay.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it really can come from anywhere. I had 4 boys and a girl, spent a lot of time in the bleachers in baseball, and I apparently didn't work the bleachers hard enough because I didn't come across any LPs at the time. And I didn't have a venture fund or anything.
I understand,
But it is interesting that you really have to just openly and honestly just be interested in who people are and what they're doing, and you just have no idea.
Yeah.
Right? You have no idea what they're doing, what their background is, or whether you actually can end up doing something together, right?
Yeah, and just to follow the example, we are about to get into capital markets. We're exploring maybe Canada and go to Europe. And it happened to be that the gentleman that is helping us, that we are going to meet next week in Europe, I met him in 2013.
Yeah.
And a couple of transactions, successful. But I mean, after 9 years, we still in communication and bringing opportunities to each other. So I think it's important to keep relationships alive and try to understand. Not to bring a solution is what you can help other people, and then you will find out that one day you're going to be helped.
Well, I think that's the key. I mean, another theme is just not everything. Things don't have to always be transactional, and you have to be true in the fact that you are honestly trying to help people.
Correct.
And you don't necessarily know whether it's going to come back to you or not. You're not doing it because you think you're going to get money from this person at some point or something's going to happen. You're just doing it, but hey, I like you and I see what you're doing and here's something I can do to help, or here's someone you should talk to. And over time, as you build that trust and relationships, something might happen on the business side, something might not, right? But if you're open and really give first is what I would say, right?
Yeah.
You're trying to help first, and a lot of people do feel that you do that, the world does pay you back in some way, not always financially, but some other ways. But I mean, if you're just doing it just to do it, right?
Yeah.
So
yes.
Yeah. As an entrepreneur, it's amazing because you never know. And this is what makes being an entrepreneur so great. You never know if the person next to you is going to change your life. And we have that ability.
Right.
And so being open to that, it really just gives, every day its own unique sunlight. And I for me, that's very satisfying.
Right.
And I'm happy to embrace those type of relationships. And you talk to a lot of people, and some are going to work, some aren't. But knowing that there's always that opportunity is very promising as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, exactly.
And then sometimes we meet, people like Softeq and Billy and Chris. We got to keep on looking for new relationships.
There's some people that just appear for a mission and they walk away for some reason. Not all of them stays, right?
Yeah, right.
Or a great relationship. It's just maybe it's a transaction, but from both sides you learn.
Right.
Transaction and long-term relationships.
Right.
It's a combination, I think.
That's really how I've built Softeq over the years. Most of it was relationships. And it turns out if you do what you said, when you said, for how much you said, it turns out people want to bring you back. Right.
I used to have this chart in my office, and it had all these bubbles of everybody I ever met and who they introduced me to. And it was just amazing, like how many very substantial people I met through the most random relationships. And I was not into fintech. I was, pretending to know finance, and I was like, "This is a great idea." I didn't know LinkedIn had been created, but it was that idea, but it was just drawn out, manually in my office, and it's, to get to Alejandro, to get to the capital markets, to get to some of our major investors. It's been a very scenic route that nobody could have ever predicted.
Right. And it's not like you just go to an investor conference and magic happens, right?
I wish it was that simple. Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Chris, we also have the shovel. So we are nice people. We also have the shovel.
Are we telling you about the shovel?
No, I don't know. I don't know.
You don't want to be in the shovel.
You don't want the shovel?
So, we're privileged to have our own office, and because we have our own office, that means we can be like little kids and do whatever we want. So I'll introduce you to my Scotch bar there one day.
Okay.
But we do have a shovel, and fortunately, we put the name of people that were given opportunity. And it's not that they rejected the opportunity. it's that complete opposite. They dug themselves away from the opportunity. The opportunity literally was handed to them. And complete opposite, 180, they decided to dig their own grave. And, you know, we have a running joke at Royal Eagle, and it's the worst thing that you ever want to be told is that you have potential.
Right.
Like, respectfully, either be a winner or go for it, or just give up, right? But being in the gray is purgatory. So I never want to be talked about as having potential.
Right.
I would prefer, you know, Chris, you know, 2-3 years be like that, Mark, that guy was crazy. And, you know, we knew he was, you know, going to be a total loser. That's fine. Okay.
He had no potential.
No potential. That's perfect. Okay. But don't ever tell me that I had potential.
Right.
And I think that a lot of that is just, you know, philosophy and like how you deal with being a business owner, how you talk to other people, introduce yourself and work with people. And that's the Royal Eagle mindset. And Alejandro's correct. You know, we're really calm, mellow people, but we do want to win. You know, all the way from the soccer field with, you know, kids in elementary school to in business and capital markets.
Well, I think I know now if I get into Uber with you guys and there's a shovel in your hand, I should probably I kind of know where things are going.
Yeah, that's
The shovel is getting bigger. Right?
Yeah. Well, now we have two shovels. We have a person shovel, and then we have partnership shovels. And those are people at a higher level that shoveled their way into a grave also. We won't name names.
I'll try to stay off. We're going to work really hard to stay off the shovel. That's pretty funny. Well, one thing I wanted to ask was how is Royal Eagle invested in forging the future? What are you guys trying to do through Royal Eagle?
You want to start?
No, please.
Me? I think it's very simple, Chris. I think, like I say before, traditional industries, energy, finance, sports, health, adding technology. I think for me is kind of a unique opportunity to understand that path and add that strategy to our overall business. We are researching how we can, you know, increase revenue or, you know, be profitable adding technology. So that's I think also bringing solutions to markets that we see here every day,
right?
To go to Latin America.
Interesting.
That's a very good answer. Mine is much more colloquial because Alejandro's much smarter. You and I have talked, Chris, before, and I've told you that I used to work at Dow Chemicals doing information systems, internal auditing, and that was in 1998. And I don't even know how to turn a computer on now. So how we're forging the future, I think, is mindset of being open to the future, pivoting, and trying to create solutions or work with people that have real solutions that are practical. And I think that's super important for anybody that wants to disrupt or continue to keep pace with how fast the world's moving. You know, you're much smarter. You know about half-lives and technology and how quick things move. You know have the algorithms all in your head. You know, all I can do is just see how quick technology is. And I can say what we can do is pivot, stay focused, and be open to what's next.
Right.
So,
that's great.
Yes, sir.
So where can people find you if they want to contact Royal Eagle or a startup or maybe an investor? I don't know if you're looking for more LPs or not, but how do they contact you guys?
Well, I don't know.
I have like 3 or 4 bars that I'm using. We drop pins on those. No,
show up to the soccer game.
Absolutely. No, we're easy, Chris. Mark Valdez, Alejandro Mendez. You can look at LinkedIn. We're at royaleaglecap.com. Alejandro's house number is, but we're not too hard to find.
Okay.
I'm kind of short, but other than that, we're not too hard to find.
And anything coming up from Royal Eagle that you might want to talk about?
Well, yes, we have a kind of a consolidating strategy in energy. We're going to have several megawatt solar in Colombia. It's a huge investment for us. Obviously, the venture capital LP is very for 2023 is something that has to be priority, and actually it's consolidating all the strategy that we started in 2018. It's kind of a we put the seed. Is to
water and grow,
and have some production and
we're right at the cusp, the threshold of putting out some major announcements. We've been blessed. We've been lucky in our business, and some things have worked out very well for us. And being pre-IPO, we want to be careful with material information.
Sure.
But
is it too late to get in on that?
Exactly. Well, I got a guy that knows a guy.
Right.
And I think there's a lot of exciting things, regarding renewable energy and what we're doing around the world. The reality of it is the demand's not going anywhere.
Right.
It's necessary. And it's only going to increase. Alejandro always jokes with me. He goes, I don't care how cool, people think they are. At the end of the day, any technology is all run by electricity.
Right.
And
power goes off and no one's happy.
No one's happy.
Yeah.
Water, Wi-Fi, electricity.
Exactly.
We're not cool enough to know about the metaverse and AI and anything like that, but we're happy to provide the energy to all of that.
Metaverse needs energy.
Yeah. And then just, the growing population in Latin America and just the basic needs, so there's like a real satisfaction that we're bringing, energy and technology to a growing population that's, might be first generation seeing some of these things. So that's very positive. We're happy about that.
That's great. Well, looking forward to those announcements.
Yes, sir.
Well, thanks for coming on the show.
We do have something. We want to start a tradition.
Okay.
Because we disrupt also. Okay. So we're probably going to have the worst interview podcast that you have from all your people, but we want to start a tradition. We know
somebody's got to be last.
We know that you have an affinity for tequila.
Okay.
So I think everybody that comes and does a podcast with you, the bare entrance to the bare minimum ticket to entrance, I think should be a bottle of tequila.
Oh, wow, thank you.
Yes.
Look at that. It's even too big for the bag.
So
Ooh,
that
look at that. That's a beautiful bottle.
When I drink that tequila,
is it empty?
I was drinking it in the car.
Yeah, you tested it.
When I drink that, I become 6'2" and 130 pounds.
Yeah.
And when you drink it, you'll feel like you have a little bit more hair and a couple more muscles.
Yeah.
That stuff is great for everybody.
Well, thank you very much. I have not seen a bottle like that before. My wife will be, I need that bottle. So well, wait till it's empty.
or tell her you brought it for her. I'm okay with that. We're easy to work with.
Yeah. Well, I have something for you, actually.
Oh, wow. Fantastic.
You probably might have noticed I like to wear geeky socks. I got my shuttle socks on here today. Go Houston, go launching startups and businesses and venture funds, right? So
does the underwear match?
It's actually on point. So here's one.
Oh, I love it.
So you got your
let's
drink
make a
socks.
promise when we go IPO.
Yeah,
there you go. Gotta get those socks on.
We will be wearing these socks when we go IPO.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
Maybe we should invite Chris for that.
If he buys the drinks, yeah, of course. I'd be happy to invite him.
Only if I can ring the bell. I don't know.
Not Billy, but Chris, yes.
Yeah.
Of course.
That's funny.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, gentlemen.
We have our avocado socks.
I saw that.
I will. We would need another 50 minutes, but I'll let Alejandro answer that question.
No. That's for
no avocados, no tomatoes. No, okay. We have a lot of analogies.
Okay.
Everything we do has a purpose.
Maybe a story.
Only to the two of us.
A story for another podcast.
Exactly.
All right.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome, and thanks for the tequila.
Our pleasure.
Salud.
Salud.